Hey everybody, I am not Andrei Haresowicz or Andrew or whatever. I'm just filling in because he's like MIA at the moment, but we will recover him somewhere along the way, and we have our usual great guys. Guys, say your bit. Go left or right. Ben, Dustin, Kristoffer, say hi to everybody.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day, all the mothers out there.
Dustin,
you should all feel bad because you're watching this. No. Unless you're watching it together with your mother, of course.
And then the important question of the day is, why is it that Dustin Stout looks like he's 12 now? But anyway.
Yes, I assure you, I have not jumped back in time. I have not swapped with my younger self. This is what I look like when I shave.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember once about... it's probably 20, well, maybe 30 years ago now, to date myself slightly, that I shaved my mustache and I didn't have a beard at the time. I had the mustache half off, and I knew I was already in the process of growing it back. I just felt I had to finish shaving it at that point because you can't have half a side of a mustache. It looks a little, well, maybe you could. Maybe it could be a nouveau look thing.
So it was kind of like that commercial, you know, where with the guys have the beard growing contest, it's like they're all,
right.
It just comes right out.
Yes, exactly. So I wish it, at the time, I wished it was that easy. But we wanted to talk about OPP, which means other people's platforms, OPA, which means other people's audiences, and OPC, which means other people's content. I guess it's all about other people.
All about others today.
Yes, indeed. Somebody want to, I'm not, even though I'm sitting in here as host at the moment, I'm not going to try to monopolize this call. So why don't someone take this other people's notion. Why don't we talk about that? Let's talk about other people, first of all, and what the leverage there is and how that fits in the communities and the whole Google Plus and social media thing.
Well, all these acronyms kind of started off actually with an article that both Eric and Dustin both did on Copyblogger on the same day, actually.
Actually, correction on that. Eric was on Copyblogger. I appeared on ProBlogger.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, when you were both on blogger sites, which
there you go.
In a sense,
they were both blogger professionalism, blogging about blogging sites, blogs.
Thank you for the correction. But those are considered, other people's platforms in a sense. And I think, and then we ended up on the Mia Connect, and we started talking a little bit even further about it because it fit really well into that discussion. And the whole concept here is that when you're really, whether you're trying to get started, you're trying to build authority, how we can use other people's platforms, other people's content, other people's authority to build ourselves, either our own platform, our own content, or our own authority. And then at the end of the day, really, once you've built all three of those actually, once you've done that, now you can also start to help and really elevate people to a point where they can also start building their own platforms, their own content, and their own authority. So I think at the end of the day, the core message is building those platforms so you can elevate somebody, and it kind of almost becomes circular in nature. I guess do you guys all agree with that? What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think it's really in the whole concept of leveraging relationships and therefore, and in many ways, right? Platforms, which audiences, content, they're all really kind of getting at that, right? So there's writing articles in Copyblogger and ProBlogger, right? So that's one way to do it, right? Because we both Dustin and I, in our own different posts, got exposure to the audiences of people who read on that platform. I'll tell you, in 2 days, I got 38 new Twitter followers. which was, a bit of a pop compared to my normal rate of increase of Twitter followers per day. And that's because I was in front of other people's audiences, right? But of course, that's also other people's platform at the same time. Whereas, social media, takes the other people's audience maybe in a different direction, right? Because relationships with influential guys like Ben and Dustin and Kristoffer is a way for me to when they reshare my stuff, I'm getting in front of their audience. So the audiences thing is potentially a little broader, right?
Yeah, I agree, and I think it might be cool for us to kind of hash out what the difference is between OPP, OPA, and OPC. Now I'll just echo you there. I haven't been watching my Twitter follower count over the last 2 days, or any of my social accounts really. It's been in straight up productivity mode, just head down, working, trying to get things done before Mother's Day, so I don't have to work a whole lot today. But it's interesting. If you think about traditional advertising, commercials, magazines, newspaper advertisements. I mean, at the very core of it, it's exactly what these principles talk about. It's taking your product, your service, your brand over to a different, distribution network or channel, and leveraging their audience to advertise yours. Commercials, I mean, that's pretty obvious. Let's talk about TV talk shows, late night shows. The entire purpose, really, of a late night show is to provide about this much entertainment and then about this much advertisement for whatever celebrity is on that day, for them to advertise the next movie that's being released in the next 5 days or so. So, celebrities, film companies, product services, they've always been leveraging other people's audiences or other people's platforms for advertising purposes, to get their message spread further, wider, harder, better, faster, stronger, that kind of thing.
You didn't include quicker in there. I mean, I get some more.
I said harder, better, faster, stronger.
Yes,
might be a good premise for a song.
I was going to say, I think there's a song out there about that.
Ringing Absolutely no copyright infringement intended whatsoever.
Yes,
so harder, faster, stronger, and are you down with OPP? Okay, we've covered 2 songs so far.
2 songs. we need to call Christine DeGraff and turn this into a My Music hangout.
She'd make that happen quick. So go ahead, Kristoffer.
I was going to say, so why don't we break down each one of the acronyms and take a look at it from the standpoint of what the value is to the person who is getting, and the value of who is basically receiving, and then So why don't we start there, and just kind of go around the room.
Okay, except we're in 4 different rooms, so now I'm confused. What do we do next, Ben? Oh, maybe we go around the film strip. How about that? So, why don't we have everybody take a crack at it? I think that's a fine idea. So, Dustin, you want to do the other people's platforms thing?
Sure. Now, this for me, it's hard to sometimes differentiate between other people's platforms or other people's audiences, because essentially when you're using someone's platform, you're dipping into their audience and you're exposing yourself to their audience. But one example of a platform specific, I guess, would be social media. Let's take social media as an example. Social media, a network, is a platform that somebody else created, somebody else owns. There's not necessarily a specific audience on it. There's multiple different audiences on it, but you are on that platform that somebody else owns, out there to expand your reach and your growth and your business and your brand. So I guess that would be one example. Would you guys agree that that's a OPP?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely an OPP, and there's also, I think, a disadvantage to dealing with OPP. Since you don't own the platform, you are definitely helping them grow their audience with your knowledge and your expertise. But what happens when or if they go out of business? They get banned by Google.
What happens when they decide to make you charge to reach your audience?
Exactly.
Nobody would ever do that, Dustin. I don't
Of course, but hypothetically, let's say, the platform decides to create this algorithm that doesn't necessarily let your fans see your content because they decide what's relevant to them. This is hypothetically. I know there's no platform out there that's Facebook. I mean, doing that.
And by the way, if everybody didn't notice there, but Dustin's actually pre-optimizing Hangouts for air quotes.
Excellent.
It seems like every show I have to do something that's weird, and this is the new the Dustin.
There you go. Yeah. So, Kristoffer, we haven't heard from you yet. Let's get some comments from you on this thing.
All right. Well, with regards to other people's content, it's difficult to say, in terms of, say, Google Plus, for example, it's difficult to generate good posts every single day. I mean, you can make one every day if you try really hard, but to try to actually reach out to your audience and give them the kind of information that they're really the reason that they're following you for, you sometimes have to dip into your network, which in my, using myself as an example, I often use stuff from each of the guys on this panel. Eric, I'll repost his stuff, Mark's, and it gives you an opportunity, going back to what Mark was saying about the and therefore, you could take something like Mark or Eric's or Dustin's post, and you can put your own sort of spin on it, add your and therefore to it, and touch a chord with the audience that you have, leveraging either Mark's or Eric or somebody else's content. And then that usually involves, a mention, and then of course Eric, Mark, or somebody else sees it. It may get you a +1, it might get you a reshare, and then now you're into their audience. Same deal with Twitter. So with regards to other people's content, certainly it's a great idea to leverage it, use it, don't steal it. I mean, we talked about that before. Don't, no spamming, give credit where credit's due. Those things are important, and if you do those well, it'll serve you well. It's certainly served me well, and I would recommend that everybody do it. At least once or twice a day. Share somebody else's content, put your own spin on it, and
I think
you'll definitely see the rewards.
I think there's a huge innovation that happened with Google Plus in that area of other people's content. For a great example of that is Mick Sharp. If anybody's seen Mick Sharp's Friday Favorites, this is a perfect example of a beautifully crafted other people's content. I can't stop doing the air quotes today.
Yeah,
I just
big +1. Yeah.
Hashtag air quotes. So what he does, for those of you that don't see Mick Sharp's Friday Favorites, is he collects some of the best stuff throughout the week on Google Plus, and he'll do a brief summary. He'll put all of the links to each piece of content in the body of his content. He'll plus mention everyone who does it, put a link to that actual piece of content. He'll write some commentary about it, and it's just a great read. It's not a short read. It's a very comprehensive kind of, like, here's the best stuff that happened this week. And I don't know about you guys, I've never seen this done on any other platform, aside from maybe a blog. Some bloggers do like the weekly roundup or whatever, but you can't do this kind of thing on Twitter. You can't do that in 140 characters. You could do it on Facebook, I guess, but I don't see that happening there. But I really love that about Google Plus, that people are doing this. People are, they're kind of locking arms, is how I kind of frame it. Is they're locking arms with other people who are doing awesome things and spreading their message. And by doing that, you're building relationships, and those people, of course, are going to share your summary if it's praising their post. Well, maybe not all people, but I definitely will. You praise me, I'm going to share the crap out of it. I'll just give you that right there.
Well, and that's a really great segue. But before I get into the segue, I just want to give a real quick shout out. We've got Mia Voss in the house.
I put it up. There you go. You can put it up too. Okay, good.
Okay. She's saying, "Hey fellas, that she is totally down with OPA, OPP, and OPC." And also, I mean, hey, we're at the 15-minute mark, so it might be a good idea just to remind everybody really quick that we're talking about OPP, which is other people's platforms, other people's authority and audience, and other people's content. So, but to tail into what you were just saying, Dustin, is that content curation, I think you're right, totally. It has not really been on any other platform. And I think one of the main reasons why it works so well on the Google Plus platform is because I dare say people are more intelligent here, but the thing is that here we allow for and we encourage a much more deeper intellectual type of conversation.
Right.
And I think it's because we're more business centric, but we're also all very social animals. And so we like to talk, we like to share. We're not selfish. We're not here to just throw up a picture of a cat and we're done. Although I did that last night, so oh well. But hey, it was a cat with frickin' lightsabers, okay? And it was late. So, but what I wanted to get back to was this authority. One of the things that we all love to do on Google Plus is we love to help elevate people because it's not all about ourselves. We all started on this platform as nobodies. We might have been outside Facebook, Twitter, in the real world, we might have had a lot of authority. But when we came to Google Plus, we were nobodies. So we had to start with other people's content. We were already on somebody else's platform, but we had to borrow that authority from other people to build our own authority. And a great example of that is like even when I got started. I mean, Dustin, you and I, we were doing that experiment. You shared it. Boom, that lent me authority. Eric, when you joined into Google Plus, I'm not sure exactly what your story. Actually, what is your story? How did you get elevated on Google Plus?
I actually just kind of jumped in July of last year, and I had a few thousand followers just because of the stuff I was doing everywhere. But I had been doing nothing, and then I just got active, and sort of just did the networking thing, and that's kind of how I built it up. Was from there. I mean.
But did other people lend you their authority in a sense?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Really good thing to do, and it's really good whether it's an influencer or anybody else, right? Is solving problems for other people is engagement that's memorable, right? And so if you have Martin Sherrington or Mark Traphagen or any of you guys on this panel who's started some kind of conversation and then you come in with some value-added content that makes them think, oh yeah, that's a different way of looking at it. That's kind of interesting. Then they're going to share that because you're adding value to their conversation. That gets into that other people's conversation kind of thing. And Kristoffer too. I've seen him from time to time. He does some really interesting things. He'll create an image of somebody, right? And a caricature of some sort that says something interesting, and then boom, how are you not going to share that, right? Once you see that up there, right? And there's all these different ways that people do it, but it's really leveraging those situations, and I think it works great,
Mm-hmm. See, and in that aspect there, I mean, you probably talk about, say, the Star Trek picture, for instance. That worked well, for us because we, of course, got to leverage your audience, but it worked well for you because you're a huge Star Trek fan. you know, so it worked well for both audiences.
Yes,
And
indeed.
we had a lot of fun doing it.
And there it is, and there we go. So that's the.
That's awesome.
How could I not share that picture? I mean, can you tell me? It's just not possible, right? So.
No, but seriously, how could you not do that? Engage with Enge in there. It was made for each other. That was a given.
Right. But it actually brings up a really interesting topic, which is the whole topic of pandering. Okay. So because there's the right amount, right, and then there's like off the deep end with it, right, and you know. Off the deep end, well, the extreme, it feels like stalking, right? It's like, whoa, okay. I don't want your compliments anymore. You know, leave me alone. You know, the creepy.
Yeah, suddenly it becomes the you know, the overbearing girlfriend, like, hey, I see something else about you.
Yeah, exactly. So you have a lot of history with that, Dustin? So,
did you see that?
Yeah.
I posted it. It's about you. Did you see it?
Right. So
that's going to be a really creepy screenshot. Somebody's going to take that and just.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah. So I actually, truth be told, I have a folder here on my computer where I actually save the more interesting caricatures that were created by me by different people, just because you notice this stuff, right? There I am. Playing for some British soccer team. I apologize for not knowing, guys, which one. But you know, it just sort of sticks out for you, right? And it's kind of cool. But there's other ways to do it. Dustin, you and I have had this conversation about interviewing people. I think it might have been on Mia Voss's show that we got into the whole interview discussion. Ben, you were on that show too, and it's like. I did my first interview back in 2006, and it was actually a guy called Shashi Seth, who later, by the way, he was at Google at the time, and then he later became vice president of search at Yahoo, and now he's a managing director of a pretty well-known VC firm. But hey, what a great way to start a relationship. No one's going to get offended if you ask them for an interview. They might say no.
Right.
They might not answer you, but they're not going to be pissed off.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, who in their right mind's going, wait, you're interested in what I have to say, and you'd like to talk to me about it and share your audience with me? How freaking dare you ask me that question? Nobody's going to say that.
And the beautiful thing there, though, is that you're building your platform, in a sense, with OPC, because that's other people's content, which is that other person's story.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why those two things work together so beautifully. You know, and not to mention at the same time, you're building your own audience, and you're also leveraging the OPA, other people's audience, because now this person, because you have gone about pandering the right way with somebody who is an influencer, is they're going to share it. They're going to be like, this is just awesome, you know. Thank you, Dustin. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Kristoffer.
It's like an OPA squared. You know, it's a win-win. It's, you know, you're allowing the person you're interviewing to borrow your audience or to have some time with your audience, and in exchange, hopefully the idea is that they share it with their audience. You know, you both kind of get double the exposure for that.
And other people are more likely, other influencers are going to see that and say, oh, I know so-and-so, and they just got interviewed, so I'm going to share it too. So you're going to get actually more direct reshares that way too.
Right.
Which is awesome. Now you're in front of all of their audiences. It's a fantastic thing to do.
It's a very organic and, you know, dare I say, you know, I don't know the right word for it, but it's an organic way to grow both your following and build relationships with the people that you admire, look up to, people that you think are doing really cool things. You know, one of the things I like doing is I just like interviewing people who are doing cool things, whether it's in the creativity field or social media field. And even if I didn't have the benefit of all this, you know, OPAs, I would still want to interview these people So there's this idea of being organic about it and being, you know, I guess authentic
Genuine.
is the word I'm looking for if I wanted to use a buzzword. So there's an authenticity to it. You know, you're not just, you know, sleazeballing it because, oh, he has a large audience, I'm going to ask him to interview so I can grow my audience. You know, it's not one of those things. By the way, all the spammers sound like that. That's exactly how they sound.
Excellent.
So,
but there's a really great example of this that, I mean, just actually occurred this week. Just to give a practical example, and that is that, you know, Dustin and I, actually Dustin mainly, did the interview with Melanie, the CEO of Canva. And, well, guess what? Right before that, Guy Kawasaki went ahead and shared out, hey, this is about to happen. I mean, how cool is that, right? You know, Guy has a great audience. He's a great guy in general. But he went out and he shared Dustin.tv's post about the Hangout. Under normal circumstances, this doesn't happen, you know, much. But still, it's just and now it's going to snowball because now people have seen this. It's social proof, which a lot of people don't talk about. That is that there is social proof behind that. That not only have you now successfully and done a great job of interviewing somebody, they've shared it. They've exploded that message out there. But now it's going to attract other people at the same time to come to you and say, you know what? That was a really great interview. Would you mind interviewing me too?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Or if you're reaching out to other people, then it has that same effect as you can say, hey, here are some other people I've interviewed. I'm going to actually show you. I'm doing a lot of screen shares today, guys, so you're going to have to live with me on this. But, I mean, here's the last interview I did with Matt Cutts. And if you count up those numbers, it's over 4,000 social shares. That's a lot of other people's audiences.
Yes.
Right? And I'm sure what you did with Canva with Guy Kawasaki really worked great. But let's actually step back. So we've talked about other people's audiences, and we've talked about a few ways to do it. Let's laundry list. High quality, call it a guest post, you know, even though people are afraid of that word these days. Call it a earned media or bylined article if you're afraid of the word guest post or the phrase guest post. But it's all the same.
Earned media.
Yeah.
Phrase.
There you go. So that's one way. Social media activity where people reshare your stuff. That's another way. Interviews is another way. We use Kristoffer as the example with you know, creating content. And I kind of used the demeaning phrase pandering because, of course, when he did it with me, he was just really kind of a friendly kind of thing. But it's nonetheless, the general approach is the same. If you do something which is designed to engage, oh, no pun intended with the graphic that you created there, Kristoffer, you know, with somebody specific. So those are a few different ways. Do we have other ways that we want to put out there?
Yeah, I think another.
There we go.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, sorry, Dustin, the Scott treatment is another great example of OPC. You know, what Scott's doing by repurposing HOAs, and which he'll probably repurpose this HOA, and taking out the golden nuggets, you know, of a half an hour-long HOA, and then putting them together in such a way it makes a lot of sense, and you get high amounts of value in less than 5 minutes. That's another way of leveraging other people's content in a creative way. At the same time, you know, you're doing the pandering, the engaging, basically, with other people. And, you know, when you're doing that, of course, what's your natural thing that you're going to do is you're going to share it. So Scott's doing a brilliant job with it. You know, he just started a couple weeks ago at the scotttreatment.com. And, you know, even though he's been doing the Scott treatment itself for a little while, but he's doing a brilliant job of it now, and he's turned it into a business. You know, I mean, I do nothing but applaud him for using OPP, OPA, and OPC all at the same time.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. He gets his shout out of the show because he gets a shout out nearly every show. So, but anyway.
Yeah. And in that same vein, you know, with Hangouts on Air, it's Hangouts on Air. I mean, I could do a whole hour long on how much value there is in doing a Hangout on Air. Not only in doing one, but in also participating and doing follow up with it. You know, one example is what I've seen a few people do. I haven't seen as many people do this as should be doing it, but it's super easy to, as you're watching a Hangout on Air, to make notes of these little time markers and to kind of timestamp the whole Hangout and share that out. You know, anybody watching this right now, you could be sitting there taking note of the time while you're watching it, and then reshare it with timestamps. Martin Shervington just shared a post, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, on how to do these timestamps so that you can actually jump to the points in the video just by clicking the timestamp within the Google Plus post. Phenomenal. So easy to do. So easy to. It's extremely valuable too. You know, if I'm in a hurry, I've only got a few minutes to really scan through a Hangout on Air. I can't watch the whole thing. If somebody has time-stamped it out, I'm in love with them. Like, they are my new favorite person because they just made my life so much easier. So, you know, hot tip to anyone watching this: timestamp this baby out, share it out. You're gonna get. You're going to give a whole lot of value to a whole lot of people. Yeah, no, I just actually shared the link. The easiest one I could find was my reshare of it, but it has. Oh yeah, the easiest one you can find. Well, but it's a demonstration in action because I have value-added content in my commentary. How convenient for you.
Yes. Does anybody remember what that tool is? Because somebody released the tool actually, where you
drink.
Oh yeah, dang it. That's right, tool. That's 4 times now. Oh gosh.
Oh, we have to say.
Yeah, 4 times. You gotta drink.
Yeah. Here we go.
So does anybody know what that thing is that allows you to timestamp YouTube videos really easily? It's like you literally just watch it and you click a button and it puts the timestamp into a post for you.
I don't.
All right, I will have to find it after the show. But another great thing about it, I mean, that's an awesome tip there, Dustin, is that those things get shared like mad because you're making people's lives easier.
Oh,
so.
Yeah.
You know, so you're doing OPA and OPC at the same time. Not to mention, I mean, really, your profile views go through the roof every time you share one of those timestamp videos, if you were the creator, of course.
Right.
Yes, indeed. And, of course, what this happens is other people do it for your show, just like Dustin said. And, you know, it's a really great way to do it. I know Debbie Davis does it some. She's done that for a few shows. And it's great stuff. So
to continue the laundry list, I think any form of content repurposing is just, I mean, sometimes it's so easy to do. You know, you take a tweetable moment in someone's blog post, and you create a graphic out of it. You create a tweet graphic or a quick quote graphic of someone's content. Share that out. I mean, that's another way to get someone's attention and create a lot of value for the audience. Guest posting, you know, like I said, some people do weekly roundups on their blog of other people's blog posts around the web. I know that Anna Hoffman, she does a weekly roundup of Google Plus posts on her blog, so she's kind of going across platform in a sense. She's taking Google Plus and bringing it to her blog, which is brilliant. So
the weekly marketing skinny, she calls it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then here we do. Debbie Davis is a master of the timestamp. There you go, from Nick Sharp. So he's hopped on in. So excellent.
Click off. It will click off.
Okay, if that's it, we've lost Ben for the show. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Excellent. So, oh, look, there's a timestamp here from Mia Voss, 2838, the ultimate shout-out. There we go. OPC, OPA, OPP, fist bump. Okay, there we go.
Okay, everybody say that really fast, 5 times.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yes.
I keep wanting to say
here's
OPP.
Here's a call to action, though. A call to action is that everybody that's watching this show, somebody, one of you, timestamp your favorite pieces of the show after we're done. Take 5 minutes, timestamp your favorite ones, and share it. And, you know, I promise I will share it at least.
So, you know, what's happened recently, there's been this movement of people talking about, oh, you don't want to live on Facebook because you're beholden to their rules. You know, of course, they use Facebook as the example because Facebook is the one that has taken organic reach way down, according to this mysterious algorithm that Dustin referred to earlier. But the reality is any platform could do that. You know, yeah, it was you.
Really?
You know,
Bash Facebook? What?
yeah, there you go. But Twitter could do it. They're public, right? Their revenue is a big deal for them now, and that's coming. And you know, at some point, Google Plus could do it. Hope not. But you don't know. I mean, any platform can do this at any time, depending on what their advantages are. So, you know, there's this movement out there saying, okay, let's not, you know, don't live on other people's platforms. Make sure you bring everyone back to your own platform. But, you know, as I started my article for Copyblogger, what I laid out is the first 6 months of the Stone Temple blog, I wrote all kinds of fantastic content. And by the way, I have to say it because no one else will say it because no one else read it. So I had no audience, right? So I had to go out and build one. And it's like we got to have a balance here, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right, Eric. There has to be a definitive balance. But, you know, if you think about it from a strategic standpoint, right, like you were saying with the Stone Temple blog, you started out by putting out a lot of content on your site first, right? And there were probably, I would assume, that it was a bunch of crickets, right? You know, cricket, cricket in the background because you put out this great content, but no one was seeing it.
Hashtag chirp chirp.
Chirp chirp, right. So, but then you started doing the OPP, right? And taking advantage of OPA. But now you do have all this great content. You could always repost it, you know, whenever you want to. So it's a great I think it's a great strategy. Build up the content on your own platform first, then start working on other people's platforms. And now you can marry the two together, basically. But you were just making me think about one thing that actually really kind of scares me, and that is that, like, YouTube, Hangouts on Air, right? What happens if the social media hangout or any of the shows that any of us have been on dies and the channel gets banned for whatever reason? What happens to that content now? Because now all of a sudden the videos are gone, they're deleted, you've only added them to, say, a playlist, but now they're gone. It's poof, disappeared. That's scary if you think about it, about all the time and energy that we put into these types of things. So, I mean, as a panel, I mean, I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts on what you think about how can somebody protect themselves from not being like, you know, basically being at the mercy of OPP.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm going to give I'm going to talk her language briefly here to my sister, Mia Voss, because what she does is she cultivates her own direct mailing list, right? So if her access goes away, she has a way to, you know, actually stay in touch with those people and keep bringing them into, you know, her own video events. So in that event, she's protecting herself, right? So this whole process is, okay, I'm in front of other people's audiences, but what do I do to bring them to my site to make it my audience, my relationship, my situation where they're you know, they're gonna like subscribe to my wherever I am, right? So you can related question, right? We you know, we have every social platform evidently dying, right? You know, Google Plus led the way, and then it was Twitter dying, and then of course there's always conversations about Facebook dying.
Yeah, I heard this weird rumor that MySpace is dying.
Wow.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, never happening. Okay. But,
yeah, you know, a rumor also. You know, I heard this really weird rumor. I have a source that that TechCrunch is actually going out of business. So, you know, the world's going to end when TechCrunch goes out of business.
And because Dustin Stout says he has a source, you can treat that as reliable information. Okay, I'm just telling you.
Yeah, I said I have a source.
Yeah, well, that's all it takes, right? So.
No, yeah, and the fact is, of course, the source is a little mouse that's in the corner of Dustin's house.
Hey,
but it's
this
a reliable
mouse,
source.
This mouse did a 4-day internship at TechCrunch. Okay, he was in the newsroom. He did an internship, so he knows what he's talking about.
And he saw them moving the bathroom, so that means that they're letting go of a bunch of people.
Right. Yeah, the janitor moved at least like 3 chairs into storage the other day, and I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yes, indeed. So, but the point is that you got to go through some process to make it your audience, right? So,
right, but really, what I was going to get into that with that point, I mean, that is an awesome point all in itself. What I was getting to though was it's like, for instance, this video that we're all on, the Hangout that we're all on today, right? This video, the Hangout itself could disappear at some time in the future for any number of reasons. So, but this piece of content could completely disappear, and therefore the value of it be completely gone. So what I was trying to get there to that point is it's a good idea to back up your content if you're playing with other people's platforms. So that way, if something catastrophic does occur, then you can recover from it.
Yes, I think it's a really good idea. No question about it. Something for all of us to work on. So, Dustin, you also threw out a good idea in the green room before we jumped on. Let's talk about what you shouldn't do.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have anything in mind for this, but you know, there's always those no matter how purely intentioned the tactic is or the strategy is, there's always going to be people who take it, manipulate it, or take it overboard, or you know, make a hyperbole circle out of it. There's always going to be those people who kind of just take it to a level where it's like it's just too much, or it's spammy, or it's you know, kind of wears it out, or gives the whole strategy a bad name. So I don't know. I didn't have any in mind of this, but do you guys have any examples of, you know, overdoing OPA or you know, a spammy? I mean, I think we talked a little bit about it. Somebody's pandering a little bit too much, being that overbearing girlfriend kind of deal. But I don't know. Any other examples?
Well, other than your obsession with overbearing girlfriends, another example. I mean, the super ball or hyperball circles is, you know, trying to build an audience artificially and trying to get in front of other people's audiences artificially. It's a bad way to do it. Maybe another way to do it is to become a major troll on a topic, right? If you're just trolling an agenda of some sort, we won't mention any names. You can lose your luster really easily, and people will not be interested in relating with you anymore. You know, another way to do it. So, it's just some judgment, I think, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's everything in moderation, right?
Sure.
You know, to your point, it's everything in moderation, and not to mention having a strategy actually behind it. You know, if you combine those two things together, then you can leverage OPA, OPP, and OPC to great benefit and not be that stalky girlfriend, you know, and not be creeping anybody out, and being able to create really great curated content like Mick and like David does, you know. Yeah, have a strategy.
Well, I think your strategy should always be engagement, whether, you know, engaging with, say, the influencer that you're sharing the post with, and also engaging with your audience. You know, the key is, you know, if somebody that you admire puts up a post, it's not simply enough to go and just simply +1 it. That's not engagement. That person's not going to, you know, recognize the action that you've taken. It may require, you know, when you +1 it, reshare, add your and therefore content to it. Leave a comment. Let the person genuinely know why you appreciated that content. You know, not you know, this was a great post or something. You know, the engagement. It has to be meaningful engagement, both for your audience and for the influencer that you're sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, another thought here too, which I think is worth talking about, is, okay, there's so many different things I can do. Where do I start? What's going to work for me? Maybe we could each just kind of run through and share our own experiences as to how we got started, what helped us get traction. What do you think? Ben, you want to do that? Start us with that?
Sure. Why not? So let's see. The question is how we all got started on this, right?
Yeah, I mean, because at some point you had the right things going where you were building an audience, right? So. Yep. So, and you probably weren't working across 8 platforms simultaneously. Just guessing.
You're correct. You're absolutely correct. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll just go through my experience on Google+. On G+, so I definitely recognized that I was going to need to use OPA to gain any kind of authority myself on Google+. And so I started out with actually a piece of my own content about social signals, but at the same time it was kind of also OPC, because Dustin was working on the same type, had just released the same kind of article. So together, using OPA and OPC, I ended up putting out my thing about social signals and kind of piggybacked off of Dustin at the same time. So built a lot of, basically together, actually, we ended up building authority on that. And for quite a long time, I think we were known as the go-to guys when anybody wanted to know about social signals and what generated a +1 at that time. You know, I don't think I went about it in a 100% strategic fashion. As far as like going after other authoritative people and sharing just their content. I went after people that for me were interesting and were very highly aligned with what my passions were and my topics. So if I saw a piece of content, I would share it, and I would always share it with some extra insight. So that was, you know, leveraging definitely other people's content, you know, to get to know them, basically. But at the same time, they got to know me, so when I was putting out that content, like for instance about the social signals, it all of a sudden started getting shared all over the place. Just to tail all on that to other people's platforms, this is a great example, you know, of being on other people's platforms. Is, you know, joining the community, and, you know, now we're here every single week together. We're all taking advantage of somebody else's platform in this case, which is the community's platform. So, okay.
Agreed. And I think, you know, to my own discredit, I kind of just stumbled into all this. I really just discovered the power of OPC, OPA, OPP, just because I was so interested in what other people were doing. When I started on Google+, I was just like everybody else. I was into social media. I was a bit of a social media junkie. I was a shiny thing. I still am. I love shiny new things. So when Google+ started, I said, oh man, I love what they're doing. I kind of see the vision for where they're going, and I just want to dive into it. And so I kind of just jumped in head first, following the people who were doing the most interesting things, and I started sharing what they were doing because it fascinated me. And it's sort of related to what I was doing on my blog, Dustin.tv, sharing stuff about social media and creativity. So in sharing other people's things and getting involved in those conversations, I just kind of realized, I don't know what point I realized it, but I realized, man, I get a lot of traction sharing what other people are doing better than me. So yeah, let me get this right. They created the content. It's smarter than me, better than me. I share it, and people thank me for it. That's revolutionary. I'm going to do more of that. So it wasn't sort of a strategic thing at first. I just I realized that when I when I do good things for other people by sharing their content, good things tend to happen in return, and that's kind of how I wandered into it.
Yeah, that's great. Kristoffer, what about your thoughts on it? Just getting started.
Well, getting started, I'll give a little shout out to my mother because it's Mother's Day. But my mother always told me growing up that if you wanted to be a success, that you needed to surround yourself with successful people. And that was basically my strategy when I got onto Google+, that I was going to surround myself with people that I could learn from and that were going to benefit the time that I was spending on social media. Now, one of the strategies that I adopted early was to find posts from influencers that taught me something new, something I had a hard time grasping or didn't understand, and we'll use Mark as an example. He's not here today, but with authorship. Lots of people struggle with authorship. I did too. Understanding it and trying to explain that to clients and explain that to other people. I took Mark's content, I read through it, I broke it down into terms that I could understand, and then I shared that with my audience in a way that I was sure that they could understand. And I still do that today. If something new comes out, I mean the Plus post ads, I did it with that. When Twitter's new profile came out, I did it with that. Anything new that comes out that I have a hard time understanding or I'm going to need to explain to my clients, I will go and find that influencer's content and I'll rewrite it, repurpose it, add the and therefore content, and I mean the reshares are great, plus ones are great.
Yeah,
that's actually a really awesome point, Kristoffer. I never thought of it that way, but you know what? By actually writing it, you're actually really reinforcing and learning it even faster.
Yeah, and you're explaining it to yourself in terms that you can understand.
Yeah, right. Getting it into your own language, which I think is a great way to go about it.
They say the best, I forget the actual percentages, but the best way to actually learn something is to teach it.
Yeah. Yeah. And for example, going back to what Mark, when Mark writes it, in his mind, and when he's explaining it, it's at a higher level that he understands. Whereas somebody like my client who knows very little, let's say about Google Plus or authorship or anything, it's got to be, for lack of a better term, here we go, Dustin, dummied down. It's got to be dummied down so that other people can understand it.
Yeah. So, and for me, I started kind of with a Dustin-like approach of rushing headlong blindly in a random direction and hope that something useful would happen. But actually what ended up happening is I started blogging on the Stone Temple site. Then I fell into the interview thing, so to speak, and started interviewing people, and that went really well. And then I recognized an opportunity that came up when Danny Sullivan was leaving Search Engine Watch, which happened in 2006, so we're a ways back now. And I pitched Search Engine Watch on writing for them at that time, and was able to persuade them, and I was actually wrote for them daily for a while. You notice that none of those things involve social media at all. I was very late actually to social media. And I did all these other things. Oh, and then I started going to conferences and speaking. Still doesn't involve social media. So, but that all actually worked. Actually, public speaking, by the way, is another example of exposure to OPA. Right? You're at a conference, and you're standing up there in front of these people, and hopefully you're sounding a little smarter than a fence post while you're presenting. because the fence post presentation doesn't actually get you much reputation. And it worked great. You know, built the business that way, and then eventually jumped onto social media and started trying to do things here. So.
Awesome. I would say that that we have a nice call to action for everybody that's out there in the audience today, and that is for our next week's show. How about come up with one paragraph about today's show, and use either OPA, OPP, or OPC together, and write up something about that and pop it into the comments, and maybe we'll highlight it on our next show.
Yes, so now I have a new nickname for you. It's Ben Call to Action Fisher, because I think you do that in every show now. But it's a great way to sum it up, to give people some homework to make sure that they get the value. I think it's a great thing to have them do.
Oh wait, I think somebody wrote something about how actionable content helps build readership. I read that somewhere. So Ben, I think you're right on point with that.
Okay, so that's Dustin's code word for read my articles, please. That's what he's saying. I'm just translating, a little more directly than you did it, Dustin.
Love it.
There you go. So, all right. Well, we have like 2 minutes left, guys. Anybody want to add any last thoughts here? We have a call to action that's thrown out by Ben. Anybody else want to add? Dustin, Kristoffer, you want to add something else?
No, I said more than enough, I think.
You can always end off by singing, are you down with OPP?
Yeah.
We can fade out with the music,
No, but seriously, everybody, thanks for coming. Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day.
Thanks for
Thank you for spending your Mother's Day with us, a portion of it.
Yes, indeed. And we'll see you all next week on the Social Media Hangout show. We will presumably have Andrew back, as well as Mark, who got tied up this weekend. So
maybe Ryan will join us next week too.
My final thought, I just want to leave with everyone, since it is Mother's Day, in honor of Mark Wahlberg. Say, how do you mother for me?
There you go. That is a wonderful closing statement for the show. So with that, thanks everybody. Have a great Mother's Day.
Bye-bye.